My guest today is a man who I've admired for... How long have I admired you? I've admired you for 25 years. I don't know if we're going to get to it, but one of the most impactful single seasons of SNL that I can remember.
Ow! It's working. Hey.
In 96?
95, 96.
95, 96. Then we worked together on a hit movie called The Goods.
I'm going to fucking knock you out.
You already have.
Starring my guest here, Jeremy Piven. Will Ferrell was in it. Ving Rhames.
Rob Riggle.
Noreen DeWolf. Catherine Hahn.
T.J. Miller.
Ed Helms. Ed Helms.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
What a hit. And
it is. We talk about this, but it has become quietly a cult classic.
Yeah. It's funny as shit, that movie.
Yeah.
Dave Koechner. He shouldn't have said anything before I said his name. He doesn't understand show business, and he never will.
That's true. And I don't mind that. That's true.
I was making that up, but
I know you were.
It seems to be.
There's truth in that.
All right, so we worked together on a movie in 2007. I think we both share a great fondness for each other and have virtually no relationship. But there's something to having fondness for somebody and requiring nothing from the other person, and knowing that that person exists is great. Couple things about Koechner I need you guys to know before we start. Has some sort of, we'll call it autism, where you remember people's birthdays, everyone's birthday.
I used to.
Well, hey, what happened?
Well, what happened? I got 5 kids, and now it's like, after a while it becomes overwhelming in that you can't,
remembering birthdays.
Well, just remembering just all the stuff.
Are you having a senior moment, or do you just not give a fuck?
Both.
Great. Another thing that I will never forget. What did your father refer when he would say the word, what we all say, crotch, the crotch area? What would your father say?
The croth.
The croth.
No, I believe it's because he thought crotch was a dirty word.
Interesting.
Yes. It's because I was like, it's the crotch, Dad. I think he thought it was a dirty word.
Would he flinch when you would say crotch?
I wouldn't repeat it. I wouldn't well, challenge
because he
him.
hit you.
I wouldn't challenge him and go, Dad, it's crotch.
But he would say the croth area.
But right down there in the croth area. But I think I was young enough to go like you can't challenge your dad on that. But these days your kids can challenge you on everything. It's been flipped. There's no parenting anymore.
It's insane.
Parenting's gone.
There is a George Orwell quote that I wrote down in my phone because it was from an Orwell short story. And it's like, yep, this is it. He said, the weakness of the child is that it starts with a blank sheet. It neither understands nor questions the society in which it lives, and because of its credulity, other people can work upon it, infecting it with the sense of inferiority and the dread of offending against mysterious, terrible laws.
Wow, that's how...
A sense of desolate loneliness and helplessness, of being locked up not only in a hostile world, but in a world of good and evil, where the rules were such that it was actually not possible for me to keep them. Well, I read it 7 years ago. It was like, fuck, this is it, dude.
That is perfect.
Yes, this is it. Terror from a total lack. I will never send this to you. Terror from you think I'm going to give up my writing like this? Terror from a complete lack of control. And that was always my recollection. It's like, you motherfuckers are changing the rules constantly. Man, you can't really protest. You can do one protest, then you get smacked or something.
Yes, there's punishment. That is about as good as it gets.
His name's George Orwell, and he was British.
The second half of that sentence starts with something about the terror, what was that?
A sense of desolate loneliness and helplessness.
That's it.
You ever see the movie You, Me, and Everyone We Know?
I haven't.
It's the best distillation of this idea of how fucking lonely childhood is.
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
Right.
It's as simple as I say, what our job is as parents is only to let your child know that you're seen and heard. And then my job should have been, and I didn't do this, to make sure that how you see and hear the world is important to me, so I can reflect that back to you, and then give you the guardrails to find yourself within that, rather than let me place this dark, ugly smother on top of you and insist that you must comply with this rule. But then, because your life is so mine is so unmanageable anyway, you do the best you can in terms of...
It's what they call in the NBA a bang, bang play. It's like, like inbound, tip, most of life is just coming at you so fast.
Yes.
Kids, they're yelling, they're crying, they're sticky, they're gross, they smell, you're mad, you know what I mean? So you just do shit quickly and
you hope for the best.
Yeah.
And it's always imperfect. Parenting, I think, is pass-fail. It really is.
Right.
It really is. Do your kids still talk to you as adults? Yes, great. You look back on stuff and go, oh, there's room for so much improvement.
Right.
And you have to, deal with whatever crisis is happening in the moment, and you do your absolute best.
How old's your oldest?
24. He's doing well. And the other thing I've told my kids too, because, I went through the divorce, and that was very hard and on everybody. And I told my kids,
find it pretty easy. Go on.
There's a thing of like, you look back and go, okay, I should have been done better in terms of ensuring that the children were made to feel safe, because when the family falls apart, then you don't feel safe.
Right.
And so I'd say that's the one thing I would probably go back and try to correct. But I told my children after the breakup that I said, listen, I owe you a lot of apologies in life, and I will always give them. And it's not just saying, I'm sorry. There's amends, and there's steps to amends, and I won't make an excuse. So anything you ever want to challenge me on, I'm open to hearing. And they've done it several times. So like that. And Charlie said a couple of things to me. I said, yeah, I get it. And, I don't make an excuse. I can say, these are the circumstances that were in play at the time. And so that probably fed into what happened. There's no excuse for it. Nothing horrible. You understand?
Yeah.
But, I do. Sorry.
No.
How my children feel is precious to me. And so, it's an ongoing thing, and you just want to build on a stronger and stronger relationship. So, well, I didn't know that was going to come up.
Fuck, we're only like 7 minutes in. Fucking save something. I'm begging you.
I'll tell you this.
You do that to me one more time.
I will cry at a commercial. And my kids will look at me. If there's a sappy commercial, they will just kind of look down the couch and see, are you crying, Dad?
Did you fight that? Because I find myself the older I get, the more I'm like John Boehner.
Shot at the American dream like I did.
Yes.
Where he'd be like gin soaked and smoking and then like start crying for no reason. It was fucking hilarious.
It's pretty, and I think he reads his book on tape after clearly having several glasses of wine.
Oh, fuck. That's great.
Yeah.
I also should mention Koechner was one of the best parts of one of the best movies, Anchorman. So
thank you. And you're right to say it.
Yeah. No, I was only right. I'm trying to get the audience back, if you don't mind. All right, let's do some blocks. Okay. Quit fucking around. Right. If you quit your fucking crying, we'll get to some blocks.
Yeah.
So this list is basically all of your problems are ADD based.
I think so. This is an impulsivity thing that I guess is slightly intrusive. I just rented a new place, and the air conditioning went out. So it was very hot. So I went out and bought a bunch of fans because it's nice and cool at night. And I showed the kids, insisted, this is how you put the fan in the window. You don't put it in your room, right? That's where you pull the cold air in. No, I think this is like, no, it doesn't work that way. So I'd show them. And then probably every 10 minutes, I'd go into the room like, right? Better, right? Right? Much better? Don't you feel cooler? You should open your door because you got to get the airflow going. Do you see? That's the type of thing where it manifests itself in the day-to-day.
And are you right in this situation?
Of course.
Oh, my dad. But you want credit? What are you looking
Probably.
for when you go in the room?
I guess.
Confirmation?
Yeah.
Dad of the century?
It's not even about being the best dad. It's probably about being right. And I guess the other part is hoping that they get, did you learn the lesson? I think that might, just reflecting back on it right now, I think that's it. Like, do you get it?
I'm just thinking what could be a good TikTok channel. Just a dad. If you can, they'll learn it. It just has to be in TikTok form.
That's interesting. The other thing about the impulsivity is that then I try to overmanage my kids, just overmanage their lives. And it's like, just get the fuck out. Will you leave me alone? Because I'll focus on like the things that I know will be helpful to them, right? So I like to introduce this idea to them, but then I'll say the same thing 10 times. Yeah. To where I was like, now it's not possible, Dad, because you've annoyed me past annoyance.
This is you've ruined it.
Yes.
I'm holding my antipathy toward your presentation of the idea. I'm holding it against the idea now. So not only fuck you, fuck the idea. And I get that it's a good idea. It don't matter.
The fact that you were the postman, fuck you.
Yes.
Not at my address.
Yeah.
Beat it.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Well, because you don't, the mailman doesn't go back and go, did you read it? Did you read?
Oh!
Did you read the mail?
Oh!
Did you read the mail?
God damn it.
You
That's
just
good.
got to drop it off, Koechner, and then keep on your route. Run downtown.
Let me open it and read it for you. Get the fuck out of my room.
Let me do it in a different voice. Yeah, that's very funny.
That's a perfect metaphor. Oh my God.
It sounds like if I was your kid, I would make fun of you.
Oh yeah.
Do they go, oh, Dad's doing, no, he's picked me. So here it's bugging, I'm it.
They don't necessarily do it in the moment, but they'll make fun of me for whatever. Yeah. Some of my behaviors and activities. Yeah. And you know, all in good fun and for good reason. You know?
Yeah. I'm not slagging there.
Yeah,
I'm saying like they must make fun of you.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I implore them to.
Yes. Yeah. Or just roll their eyes.
All right. ADD, ADHD. Never diagnosed a child, but it must have been a great trial for my parents. I am one of 6 kids, and none of them are wired that way. And then that's the heading.
Yeah.
Then the resulting blocks are poor concentration, impulsivity, disorganization, constantly making plans, yet struggle with follow through. Go on. Do tell.
Well, you want to start from the childhood?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just was non-compliant mostly with whatever their orders were. And it didn't, then you're going to be penalized more. And what happened, the result was, I think after a while, they just kind of threw their hands up and like, I don't know what to do with this kid.
So were you just a terror, kind of?
No, I was unfocused and, so I wouldn't comply necessarily to what they wanted. And then that was very frustrating to them. Now, my mother, your mother must have had kids every 10 seconds. My mother had one, the first
10 kids, 16 years. Beat it. I challenge you.
I can't. My mom had 6 kids over, 15 years, 10 years. But it's interesting, the Catholics will say, and 2 miscarriages.
Fuck. So I got a text from my mom yesterday. I'll just read you what came up on my side. Just in terms of how weirdly macabre kind of older Midwestern women are. I'm off to a funeral. Anyhow, you were saying? Yeah, I don't.
That's it.
Yep, I'm off to. Yeah, it's something about my niece and nephews. Anyhow, off to a funeral. At her age, my mom can go whenever she sees a funeral. She can go, and she'll probably know the person. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so few people their age where it's like, yeah, I'll probably. It's like a club promoter.
Yeah.
Going to a club, like I'll probably know one of the other promoters or something.
Oh, that's perfect. So my mother had 3 kids in the first 3 years of their marriage. and it was overwhelming. My oldest brother had got very sick. He had appendicitis, and so he had a really high fever, and the doctors told her that that's going to impair him. And so she focused on my brother like intensely. Like, this is, I don't know, because it's her first, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
That seems to be the way.
Yeah. My understanding is that she was very unhappy. So she'd moved from her small hometown near North Kansas City to this other small town in the Midwest, and apparently not fond of her in-laws, and she was surrounded by them. So I imagine she felt quite trapped. And then 1, 2, 3, she has kids in 3 years. Overwhelming. Again, no help.
What you're telling me is your father was a 3-pump chump? Is that what you're telling me?
Probably. Bang, bang, bang. And then my father was working 60 hours a week because he'd started a new business, and she was doing the bookkeeping and did the bookkeeping with 6 kids all these years. And she would also iron clothes. Things you think about, like, how did you do that? But then if you have a narrow channel of responsibilities, this, and this, make food, do the laundry, do the books, I guess, right? Because in our world, it is, it's running the level 5 rapids all the time.
Yeah.
And pretending you're going to put up a sail. That's the goal. I'm going to sail these rapids. Well, you don't sail rapids. Well, I'm going to try. Because that's the only way to really achieve success. Because somewhere out there is the serene waters where someone picks up your boat and you don't even have to do anything except walk around and lounge, and then your art goes away. But
that's for another podcast.
That's another podcast. But so I think by the time I came along, I was very different. And again, I haven't asked my sisters what was. I wonder if I was a particularly fussy baby, because I don't feel like we ever attached. My mom,
you and your old lady.
Yeah. I felt like we were like, we're a miss, and so that's the way it was. And so for me, by the time I was in 6th grade, I was done. I made the decision. I'm leaving. You guys can do what you're going to do, but I've got to cut. When I was 10 years old, I distinctly remember walking around the west side of my house when I was 10, alone, feeling the way George Orwell did, and just that desolation of loneliness. I'm just like, I'm leaving.
Also, you were aware of the west side of your house?
I know.
At 10 years old?
I knew that's what, that's just, yes.
You're seeing the orientation of a man's brain right now. I've literally never heard a human being describe their childhood house as I was on the west side, other than like the White House.
Well, but I was outside. I was walking around by myself outside, collecting my thoughts.
Better.
Okay. But anyway, I remember thinking distinctly, I have to leave. I'm going to miss my family and friends, but I have to go.
And this wasn't the childhood feckless weapon of the threat of running away.
No,
it's not a hollow threat. It was like, it was a decision. I can't. Yes, yes.
All
Tell
I
me
knew
more.
was I have to live in a city. So I'm growing up in a town of 2,000 people. And I recognized early, it was like, no one's like me here. I'm here, I'm doing whatever, but this isn't my place.
Yeah.
I have to go. And so, that decision was made very early. And I remember not feeling emotionally torn, like, I'm going to miss the family.
Yeah, I very much agree. My brothers and sisters were great. Like routinely, like take me places. Great. I used to go to the Chicago. My brother was an usher, an Andy Frayne usher in Chicago. So I used to go to the Chicago Stadium. When I tell you I've been to I went to 100 games at the Chicago Bulls and Blackhawks. I went to a Bulls game. How old are you, Neal? I'm so old, I saw someone mistake Michael Jordan for Orlando Woolridge. That's how old I am. Someone, the little white girl goes, "Are you Orlando Woolridge?" And I remember Michael Jordan being like, "No." like what? I really swear, I feel like it's one of the last times it happened to him. And Cubs games, probably 100
wow.
And then when I was in high school, my brother Kevin took me to comedy shows in New York. And so I'm very grateful to them. But I also remember distinctly being like, I got to get the fuck out of here from the emotional tenor my parents were setting. Yeah.
It was interesting. There was a guy who was a child of one of my parents' closest friends, and they didn't live in town. And they came to visit. And he told me recently, he said that I was 4 or 5 or something like that. And we were outside playing hide and seek. And I think he said he was 8. And he was like, I guess impressed with me in such a way. He's like, this kid must be adopted because he's so much smarter than the rest of these kids and so much different. Like, he's not part of this family. So it was such, and this just happened a year ago that he told me this. I was like, oh, there's fucking validation right there for me.
The guy remembered it?
Yeah. He told me that. Yeah.
Must have been so gratifying.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Hey,
I knew it. I mean, a lot of show businesses, I knew it.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of show businesses, like, I had a suspicion that I was weird and something like a little something. I just knew it was something that I should move to Chicago. You ever read Bob Dylan's autobiography where he said, and I don't feel this way, but he said, I feel like I was born into the wrong family.
I think a lot of people, I have not heard that one, but I think a lot of people probably felt that way. But don't you feel also that...
Can they write songs?
Right. Here, the other thing is it was necessary for us to become who we are. And so I have to be grateful for that. Had I grown up in a city, I might have been quite happy to then do something else. But like that desperation of I've got to find my expression, and then it becomes through this other means. And I'll bring this back to the ADD thing and how it manifests in my life. Because plus what we call ADD or ADHD is what? That's a gun. Well, what kind of gun? A gun, don't worry about it. I don't know why gun came up, but shotgun. And each one of these pellets is a different definition of what ADD is, right? And why does it particularly go that way? And then they try to treat it with medication. That's fucking, not to be controversial, but come on.
So you're a Scientologist?
No, but it just, there are ways to certainly guide it.
Yeah.
And recognize it and then try to do something with it. It's like dyslexia. And I'm shocked that it's still so overlooked and misdiagnosed. My brother, as it turned out, severely dyslexic, and they never knew. And so my mother was always very worried that something's wrong here, right? Well,
was this the oldest brother?
Yeah.
What was the diagnosis on him?
Well, they said that because he'd had a high fever, it's going to have he's going to have lessened brain function.
Oh, got it.
Right. And that never happened.
Yep.
He went on to run my dad's business, right? Took it
right
over.
Into the ground.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. He did well with it. But yeah, her focus on that rather than the rest of us, my sister had once told me that our mother had said, I don't know how you and
will you just put wow? Have wow come up behind him?
She said, I don't know how you and Mary Rose, I don't know how you and David learned your ABCs because I was so focused on Mark, which tells me what I knew, which was like, oh, I was just alone. Which in one way, isn't that what you want? Like, leave me the F alone.
Yeah.
But the other thing I always, instead of writing that blank sheet of paper, I've always equated it to the wrong software. Like, you've got your mainframe. There it is. Now, all the wires are just out here, and it's up to you to plug them in and build your own software. But no, you're going to run this software, which is called Catholicism,
right?
And everything it means. And there is no other software you're allowed to introduce.
Good luck. Truly the best of luck trying to put new software on when you've installed. It's like when U2 put their album on the iPhone and you couldn't delete it. That's what Catholicism is.
True.
It's is there? I mean, it informs your logic. There is a level of morality to Catholicism that I find worthwhile. None of them follow it.
Well, it's ironic, yeah.
But it's like not wrong. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think the 10 Commandments are wrong, especially the stuff about donkeys. I find especially relevant. So I completely hear you. And you're also ingesting your parents' frame.
Right. And their experience.
Yeah.
And the way things have to be.
Yes.
And I can only assume that for generations, everyone just went along with this failed system. See, I started working for my dad when I was 7 years old in a manufacturing plant. He owned a
You were working the smelter? But kind of, you're near some adult contraption that can kill you.
People, some of the machines I worked with, people had lost fingers and thumbs. I'm not kidding you.
That's what it was like.
Yes.
It was, I have some jokes about it. It was so disorganized. You can't believe it.
I was 7 and made to work after school every day for 5 cents an hour. And my dad would say, I'm overpaid at that price. Oh, what's this? As big as expense as bubble gum. And in my mind, I would think, of course, I wouldn't correct him. You don't let me buy bubble gum. It's not like, oh, I got bubble gum money.
Yeah.
Like, it was relegated all the way down to like, I wasn't allowed to buy a Mad magazine. Like, that's too risque. I couldn't go down to Hex drug store and just buy a comic book.
This is in the 30s? When
Right?
was this?
Yeah. I remember my parents threatening me with military school around 13. And my thought was, oh, please send me. Just get me the fuck out of here. This does not work.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, good. Because when I go to military school, I'm going to learn to play guitar. And I'm probably going to be a rock star.
So, just so you know.
Just so you know.
That's how it's going to go down.
There's going to be nothing but excellence coming back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which is also kind of the plot of one of the greatest novels or YA is Catching the Rye, which is military school. Which I forgot about till recently. I was like, oh yeah, you fucking went to.
I have to say, I've never read it.
You would.
I know. I would love it.
You would love it based on that. And then based on that whole like, well, just say, that's the whole tone. Like, well, just so you know. And it's like a bunch of phonies. He's constantly talking about phone. It's great.
I've read Franny and Zoe, which is another.
Really? Okay. No, I mean, that's more tender.
Yeah.
Catching the Rye is like desperate. And
yeah. And that's what, like we were talking about earlier, that's what a lot of kids are. You're desperate to know. And I don't think my kids are desperate. I really don't. I mean, there might be some desperation that's unspoken to me. And there's always a sense of desperation that any human probably has. But I don't think they don't necessarily feel it to the point where they are desperate to get
that. They want to go to military school.
Right. They used to make me run to the post office to pick up the mail. So we didn't get mail delivered to our house. There was a post office.
It was 1930s.
1929.
You knew Superman, right?
Yes. The post office was a half a mile away, and they would make me run to the post office to get the mail and run home because I had too much energy. We would go out on, here's the punishing thing, on Sundays after church, every Sunday. And then every Sunday we'd go to my grandmother's house, and they'd all talk for an hour or two, and there's nothing to do. You can't go explore. Then we'd go for a long car ride out in the country and our country squire station wagon. And I'm sure I'd be torturing that fuck out of my brothers and sisters. They'd make me get out and run along the side of the car.
Fuck, that's hilarious.
That's how much energy. That's how exhausted they were. Like, get the fuck out of, they never said fuck, but get the fuck out of the car, leave everyone alone, and just run alongside the car.
Yeah, my brother Tommy, it was before I was born, but apparently he fell out of a moving car. He fell out of the station wagon.
Talking about impulsivity, I once, very young, opened the car door and put my foot down like I was going to go feel what it was like to put your foot outside and feel along the, like.
Which we're all curious about. Look, you'd be a liar to say we're not all curious about that. Did you do it?
I put my foot out and my mom was like, what are you doing? I probably got within 2 inches of, I was just going to,
Yeah, you're just skimming it.
Tap the road one.
No. I'm just skimming. Well, at least they didn't want to kill you.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I used to do a joke about, do you remember when there was this fad in the 80s when kids would fall down a well?
Uh-huh.
They should bring that fad back.
Yeah. But also, I haven't heard from wells. They just disappeared somehow.
Well, they finally filled them in.
With concrete, thank you.
Something like.
Yeah, I guess
we should fill this in.
Were they active wells?
No, they would be wells that were that were old, and these are wells, folks, that are just 2 feet wide, and so kids would fall down. Can you imagine the horror? And then there'd be a week where they'd be the rescue team would be.
Well, baby Jessica, right?
I think that was the first one, right?
Yeah,
Something like
that was but also the horror doesn't sound any worse than what you were going through. So
I was down my own well. But yeah, what the ADHD does then is because you do feel your own sense of out of control, right? And so then you seek some control or suppress what's going on, which is this constant flood of thought going back to the rapids, just going, wah. Like my mind is a 20-lane highway, and there's 20 cars that I'm driving at the same time, and then one of them speeds up, and the rest of the cars go, "Oh, are we going?" And so the whole thing is that's what my mind's like. So then what you tend to do is oftentimes you'll fall into addiction. And, I was an alcoholic. Well, you're always an alcoholic. I'm sober now, but
when did you get sober?
I've tried for years, but, more than a year ago, because
that's recently.
I had a couple of public things. I don't know if you know
great.
that.
Didn't know that.
A couple of DUIs. Not one.
Oh.
2 within 6 months. Like, are you kidding me?
They wanted to send you one more, and they send you to adult military academy.
Go. Yeah. So no, it was, you make mistakes. Don't drink and drive. Okay, please, ever. And those are some failures. And then your kids have got to see this shit, and it's on the news and all that stuff. And it's just like, oh God. But I guess to say it's another wake up call. I had been sober before that, and then just one day you slip, and then you get behind the wheel. That's literally what had happened both times.
Slip like you had 6 months or a year.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
And, you have a relapse, and then I had solid time before that first one, and then you have a day, and you're like, oh. The first.
What would make you drink?
Oh, I'm triggered by everything. Well, that particular one, because you talk yourself into it. The one was I decided I wanted to change my sobriety date to New Year's Day. That's how dumb that type of thinking is, right? That's the alcoholic thinking. The alcoholic will plan and scheme, right? And so you start planning and scheming and thinking how you're going to have that drink for what? Now it goes back to the ADHD and the ADD, because you need to suppress the thing that's going on. Like you feel a bit out of control, so you want to control it. So you typically control it with a substance, right? Like maybe I can put this in line, or else I feel like it's less, whatever, racy. And so, you make those types of decisions for that reason.
When I hear you talk about your alcoholism, I'm codependent. So
Me too.
My problem is, what kind of standard of behavior can I hold a drug addict or an alcoholic to?
Sobriety is the only standard.
But interpersonally.
To their behavior?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do anything.
No, I'm saying, how should I react? Should I react with
compassion?
Yes.
You could say, I see you're struggling. Do you want to talk about it? That's all you can do.
They're late. They're and I'm not saying because they're actively drinking, they're just
it's alcoholic behavior.
Yeah,
yep.
Alcoholic behavior. It's over 25 years. I've figured out how to do it, but it's not easy. Meaning, when I say it, I mean hold the alcoholic or drug addict to a standard. They hate it. They plead how it's not fair, how it's wrong. That all the alcoholics and mental illness excuses, and it's kind of like it's kind of not my problem.
It's not your problem at all.
Yeah,
it's their problem. If it affects your life, then it's your problem, and now they're your problem, and then you have to just let them go. Especially if it becomes toxic, or like that. If you hold them to a standard because you had to have a lunch date is one thing, or if they're working for you. Then it's like you get this third strike. You're done here, and I wanted to keep you on, but this doesn't work. I've had to get rid of some people in my life that are toxic, and it's like, oh, I've known you for almost 30 years, but you know what? You're kind of shitty. So no.
Have people let you go, and you've been like, yep.
I'm sure. There are some friendships that are a mystery to me that aren't continued, and I've always been like, what did I do? And this goes back to possibly the impulsivity or the codependence, which is an insistence that we're friends in a certain particular way. And a lot of people are like, that's not that's not the way I have interpersonal relationships. So, but if you have this codependence, which sometimes is triggered by the ADHD, is because if you're not quite sure of yourself because of ADD, Like, is this out of line? Is that out of line? Then I'm checking in with you, which makes you have to then be my guardrail, which is just what you were talking about. Like, what is your responsibility to this person's crazy mind and how you have to deal with and help him navigate the water? It's like, dude, you got your own boat. Maybe you should get out of the water.
Yeah.
So that those things invade on every level too. You know, check this checking in type
Well,
thing.
it's checking in with the sick person.
Yeah.
It's going to the problem.
Yeah.
For the solution.
Right. Although I will say, I have told my kids, if there's one thing I would have redone, it's I never would have taken a drink. My life would be much different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'd be much happier. Had I never done that.
Happier today if you'd never drank.
Yeah.
But you haven't drunk in a year.
Oh, I'm happy.
Right, but I'm saying
I can be with my unbridled
you're the 20-lane highway.
Yeah. But you're really limiting the possibility of your happiness during all those years of drinking. 50 years. First time I got drunk the first time at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that went on for 50 fucking years.
I didn't know. I don't recall you being a drunk when we worked together.
Well, no. I mean, it was always manageable. I wouldn't be drunk at work.
Yeah.
No, never at work.
You didn't even seem hungover. You just seemed like,
no. Yeah. Well,
even like you played a good drunk. Like we do. Like, look.
Sure.
Like, so yeah, you never struck me as drunk, but
no, not at work. You know.
No, yeah, I got it. But you didn't look puffy or whatever. So.
Yeah. So there'd be spells I could go. I would be able to go for 6-8 months and not drink because I'd be determined. Like this is in my way. Let me put this down, and I'll just get straight. But I wasn't in program.
Do you have a ton of regret, missed opportunities, things like that, based around drinking? And how do you handle the shame and the regret?
You just don't like that. You have to look past it. It's over. I didn't hurt anybody. Except myself.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure it's, hurt me, work wise. But I'm sober now. And, but so, yeah, and things like that. And, just where you could have been better or sharper or whatever, or, there was one show I was on and it was when my marriage was falling apart and it was pretty obvious. Like, you got something going on there, big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's, here's the thing. It's never going to help you. No, socially, it makes people feel less anxious. Okay, yep. I get it. So does box breathing. So do that.
Yeah,
do
it's
that
not the most. Go. It's hard to box breathe and catch up. I'll say that at a party. I've tried it. People didn't love it.
I'm saying before you go to the party, whatever. But you don't need to escape your present moment. What your desire is to be present. And so don't run away from it. Just get there. Stay there.
People don't know their desires to be present.
No, they don't.
There's just not, it's not what we're trained to do.
Right.
It sounds like, if I hear you correctly, that it's hard to be in your body.
Yeah. I've studied TM, right? And I'm going to see Greg Fitzsimmons later today.
Great.
And he and I did it together.
Great.
We went to the classes. Best thing about transcendental meditation, you pay, it's like, I don't know, $150, something like that, 6 classes. They give you a mantra. It's that simple. They never ask for more money. They offer more classes. They don't sell it to you. And those are free, I think.
I overpaid.
Did you?
Yeah, because the guy's like, pay what you want. I think he may over suggested.
So did you do it?
Yeah.
And do you do it every day?
I did for a while.
Yeah.
But
I don't. And when I do, oh God, it's consistency. It's building that real habit. And that's all it would take. It really would. So I tell myself, like, you can't give yourself that 21 minutes in the morning and 21 minutes at night, then do half. How about that? And that makes everything manageable. It puts everything back into focus. It's all okay. And then maybe I won't try to do everything all at once.
But you would, in order to execute that plan, you would need to not have ADD.
Right. Yeah, that would help.
Okay. Raised Catholic.
Yep.
And you wrote a well-known block.
Yes.
One of the greats.
It's a granite block. So I don't know if I can out Catholic you, but my mother came from a family of 9 kids. Out of those 9 kids, there were 2 priests and 2 nuns.
Incredible.
That's what I'm growing up in. Every holy day and every saint's day, we had to go to church. So you don't ever miss a Sunday, number one, ever. And you don't miss a saint's day. Like, you go to church.
And they have the list.
Constant, yes.
They're nuns and priests, and you come home and your mom's wearing a blouse and you're like, fuck. Is it a fucking fucking holiday? It's some kind of holiday.
From where? You think I was allowed to go out of the house to my friend's house 1 mile away in Tipton? No. That's how strict it was.
Couldn't you masquerade? Couldn't you blow off some steam? Couldn't you do I got to go for a run and then?
No. I mean, you had to be reporting in. There was no freedom whatsoever. Yeah.
Fear or just repression?
Both.
On their part. They didn't love joy. They didn't love merriment. They didn't love. We weren't allowed to laugh at the dinner table.
Wow.
And I have the same rule at my shows.
Woo! I was often invited off the table and then told to stand. My dad would draw a little circle. Like, I'd have to get on my tiptoes. He'd draw a circle. I'd have to put my nose in the circle and hold my arms out, because I was being disruptive at the dinner table.
Demonstrate it on the microphone, please.
On the microphone.
On the microphone. And then you'd have to hold your arms out.
Well, on my tiptoes. And he drew the circle because you tiptoes, you draw a circle, you put your nose in that circle, tiptoes, arms out.
How long would you have to do that for?
I don't know. For as long as, probably till they finished dinner, just so my ass wouldn't be there.
Would you cry?
Oh, I'd be just angry.
I would cry. I was one of the great criers.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's a healthy way to express yourself.
A friend of mine, an adult friend of mine, a gay adult friend, and he was somewhere with his boyfriend, and somebody threw something at him, they yelled and threw something at him, and he's like, and I was like plotting and scheming, and I'm gonna do it, and he's like, then I got home and I just cried. He's like, because it was like, my feelings were hurt. All the anger was from hurt feelings. So I guess why you say good for you is because the anger is sadness, probably. Your anger.
I think you're right. Yeah. The 4 pieces of fear, right? Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Fawn's new, by the way. Mm-hmm. Fawn they didn't have 15 years ago that I was aware of.
Okay.
And then I saw it and I was like, that's, side note, every relationship in LA.
Right. And that's all part of codependence too.
Yeah.
Right. How do I act with this person right now? And sometimes just like, you're walking past someone. Why do I feel like I have to have a certain position with that person? They will never know you. It doesn't even matter. It's whatever, You're just walking down the street like, well, I'll walk this way. What's wrong with you? I'm not a threat.
Yeah.
I want you to know I appreciate you.
Yeah. Why? It's Mulaney's ex-wife. You say
that walking around with me was like walking around with someone who's running for mayor of nothing.
Which is hilarious. So how did Catholicism affect your shame, sex, success? Did it?
It's all shame, right? All shame. I can't, it's that not good enough. That feeling of not good enough. That really, that can be paralyzing, and then again, that'll feed into something that's soothing with, substance abuse, alcoholism. So those, that's how you deal with it. Like, I can't be myself. Oh, okay, I'll drink. Then I'm myself. I can be myself now because I'm not thinking about, the anger and all that.
Well, yeah, stuff. It's you feel ashamed, mm-hmm. Then you think that the shame is coming from other people.
Yeah.
And then you are so defensive naturally. Mm-hmm. And so you start drinking and you're like, right, you didn't think and right. It's like, they didn't think of you at all.
Well, they would know of them. I'm talking about my parents. Yes.
No, I'm talking about the proverbial, person that you're walking past or whatever.
Yeah, oh yeah. Right.
Like they're not,
they were not even on. There's a quote from someone that, people don't think about you as much as you think they do. People are not thinking about you.
No.
We're always thinking, oh, what is someone say?
I'd say we're all just flying past each other's windshields. It's like this. And
yeah, but even when I got Saturday Night Live, like my parents, they're like, that show was a little, you know,
Yeah.
a little racy. They weren't. I'd
Racy.
say,
I didn't think. I thought you were gonna say like past its prime or something.
oh no,
Yeah.
they didn't have an opinion about comedy.
Yeah.
It was like they're sometimes dirty, so they weren't necessarily. It wasn't a thrill for them. Like, but are you kidding?
Yeah.
Do you not understand what this is? This is the pinnacle.
Yeah.
But like, well, it's not our type of show. And I was just like, you have no idea what it takes to get here.
It's also such a weird thing to express.
It's like, do you not see the accomplishment? Is that not the thing?
I don't think they could.
You're right.
I think you need their value system. Their families for 40% holy people.
Oh yeah.
Here's a question that it's not about you or why do you think that generation? What do you think that the two that became nuns, two became priests? Do you think it was a sexual thing, a repression thing, a service thing? Because remember when a lot of people would be called.
Oh yeah, that's
and then they stopped. The call stopped.
That's what I had a conversation with my aunt, who's now passed, and she was in her 80s, and we were driving. I drove her from Kansas City to Tipton, which is 2.5 hours, and I asked her about it. And
was she a nun, or she was
she
one
was
of
a
them?
nun.
She was.
And so all of the things that you mentioned about the reasons to go into it are in play, but also poverty, because that was a free education, right? And she told me that she got the call. She told me when she got the call. And she told me that she was boy crazy early, right? And then, you're always being indoctrinated when you're in a Catholic school about make sure you're available to the call. And she was
basically the call, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, they would say it was a vocation.
Yes.
And basically God would speak to you and tell you to become a priest or a nun.
To be in the most repressive position
in a dorm with other priests and nuns.
Yes, and never get your own freedom of expression. Your life is only service.
You are married to God.
Literally married to God, as they say.
They have a ring. Don't the nuns wear a ring? Yeah.
It's such an odd thing, and I'll say it. That's a fucking cult. I mean, come on, gang.
Catholicism?
Yeah, come on. This makes no sense whatsoever. And then because look what happened within it. Right? All the abuse.
Yeah, the amount of abuse and the amount of it's maybe the most inconvenient truth that I can think of. Like worse than climate change in a weird way, because they automatically just forgave him because it's so like fuck dude, what did you do?
Unbelievable.
I almost understand the Pope shifting people around and like fucking if we throw out everyone that it does this, we're gonna have no one doing it,
right?
And we believe not only is it the financial incentive, like we need to leech money from our parishioners consistently because it's basically a real estate operation at this point.
Yeah,
and or we're helping.
Yeah,
we're helping the world.
You're lining
with our message.
It's such a weird thing. I don't understand. And of course, I don't know if they even have nuns anymore. Like
you don't see them.
You don't see them. I think that thing is dying out. And a lot of your priests are coming from overseas now.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Because people are like, I ain't doing that. I think, for a long time it was an escape from your own repressed sexuality. I think that was part of it. And then my understanding of the things I've heard about it is because they were dormitized in a dorm room, right? In 8th grade or 12, 13, you'd go to the seminary at that age. And at that age, boys start exploring sexually. And so that's when they
what kind of sex objects or what kind of objects of sexuality would be common at a what are they called? The what?
Seminary.
Seminary, yeah.
Yes. Well, however you get
a lot of dicks around there?
Fluid out. So they're all, probably, having whatever, just, they're casual, like, oh, okay, just a bunch of dudes. Haha, let's have a circle jerk, whatever that is, right? And so I think because they're sexualized at that age, that's why a lot of these priests, I think, would sexualize kids at that same age.
Yeah.
Because that's what they know.
Yeah.
But it's so dark and devious, and they don't have an outlet for expression that maybe they're testing, like, are you like me too? And it's okay to have this freedom now here too? And like, really messed up. And, it's institutionalized too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just all of it is no. The problem is not replacing it with something else. When I quit going, I'll tell you
To
this.
church?
Yeah. A long time ago. I wanted to believe. Oh, I'm sorry. My aunt, who's a nun, was sitting on a playground set when she was 12 or something like that. And that's when she heard the call. And it was very clear to her that that's what she needed to do. I was like, oh, okay.
And she was concurrently boy crazy.
Yes. But then
And maybe depending on what part of the playground set, may have had some vaginal. I'm betting there may have been some connection there.
I'm sure she never had anything like that.
I cannot believe you didn't ask her. That old lady about her young vagina.
Had it been touched?
Pull over. Let me ask you this. Okay. And what, so she said it was about, at least she mentioned the boy crazy part.
Yeah. And that she got the call and she remembered it was very clear and that was she was supposed to do. And she was smiling when she was telling the story, almost like that glow. Have you watched that Mormon documentary on Netflix? Like that type of
yeah.
What is it? Sweet.
Keep pray
sweet.
and obey or something.
Keep sweet. Something weird like that.
I think we're both right.
Yes.
Keep sweet, pray and obey.
There
That's what
it
it's
is.
called, I believe.
So yeah, the four of them. And a lot of it was economics. So yeah, and so that's how Catholic. And now I quit going to church when I was a sophomore in college because I wanted to believe. I had to go to a Catholic college.
I was going to ask, but I'm like, of course you did.
Yeah,
Where'd you go?
There's no
Marquette?
option. You could go to community college, but you can only go to Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas, if you want to go to college, because that's where my uncle was the abbot of the monastery that was connected to that college.
Fair enough.
So there you're going. That's it.
Did you get
I went there
full ride?
No. My parents paid. What college wasn't expensive then, but so I had to go there for 2 years, and I did. And then I went to the University of Missouri and completely fucked off because I was a poli-sci major. And I realized by my third year, I'm not going to make it. What are you talking about? I realized what politics was. I really wanted to get in and to help people. I really did. And that was my calling. I want to help people. But also I think I wanted to be in front of people.
Yeah.
But I had no access to, I've never met an actor, from Tipton, Missouri. I didn't know how this would ever work. I knew at 13 I was going to be on Saturday Night Live. I knew that then. I'm like, I'm going to be on that show. So then I choose, what am I going to do? Tell my parents I'm going to be a theater major? They're not going to pay for that.
Yeah.
So by the third year, I realized to be a successful politician, you have to be either A, from a political family, or you have to be from a wealthy family, or you have to be the smartest person in any room you walk into. And I was none of those things. So I was like, this is not going to be satisfying. Or, poli-sci major, then it's either teach or, be a lawyer. I was like, I'm not going to do any of this stuff.
Did you, once you got sober, I'm still just curious, how did the Catholicism bleed into other stuff?
I think because you're looking to reject it so hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that forced its hand of, fuck you, you want me to behave? I'm going to misbehave as deeply and as irresponsibly as I possibly can.
Give me a highlight reel.
Well, using my kids might watch, using all kinds of drugs, and ones you really shouldn't do.
Yep.
And you have to introduce.
In Chicago?
Yeah.
Got it.
No. Actually, Columbia, Missouri, where the University of Missouri was.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. A couple of buddies who were junkies, and
That's wild.
I dabbled in everything.
Yeah.
I was like, because it was a response to that very repressed upbringing. I'd say that.
And also, you're reckless to begin with.
Yes, yeah, but I'm pursuing the recklessness as well, right? Just to test it, because there's always that feeling of immortality at a certain age.
Yeah.
And you have to just get out of yourself. I think that's the other part of the ADD. I need to escape who I am and what's going on.
Yeah, I don't think it's easy to be in your body. I think being a human being is difficult. Anytime you do drugs, You spend the first half an hour or 45 minutes going, are you dying? Am I dying? Are you dying? Like you're risking death to escape this consciousness.
Right.
And I got some bad news for everybody. Sometimes it's worth it. A buddy of mine said one time, when you're in your teens and 20s, you think you're immortal, and you're kind of right.
Yeah.
You're just kind of right.
Yeah.
All right. Final questions.
Yes.
So the biggest thing you've done that helped you was 12-step program.
Yeah.
Biggest thing you've done is 12-step program, and TM worked. You can't figure out how to make it a part of your life. What were the big 3 or 4 biggest kind of ways you've helped yourself?
Performing.
Okay.
Yes. Making that decision that I'm going to be an actor. And I'll just say, when I made that decision, I had zero doubt that I was going to be a success at this. And then when I moved to Chicago, I was on stage 5 nights a week, either in class or doing shows.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest time of my life.
Yeah.
Just doing it and doing it and doing it. And then hard work. I do hard work all the time. I don't care if, look, I just moved to this new place. There's literally 100 boxes to unpack, and I'm doing it. I had to move from one place to the other because the other place was a disaster. And I moved in. I'm like, what the fuck? The shower leaks. There's mold in the dishwasher. All the faucets are brown. And I just made the decision in 1 week, like, I'm leaving. You're giving me my money back. I packed it up, and I moved on, and I found a place in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I set my mind to shit, it's going to go down. That's it. If you set your mind to shit, it's going to fucking happen. So I know I have that capability, and I'm very proud of that. And so when it comes to having to, look, I only started doing stand-up 12 years ago because I had my 5th kid. And I made a decision then. I was like, you know what? I better always have a job I can create for myself. And I did it. And I'm very happy and proud of myself that I did that. I know a lot of people still, I've never taped a special. That's what I'm going to go talk to Greg about, actually. But I'm so happy it's there. But you do get to be a certain age in town, and you're less valuable, right? And so you have to create your own value, and you can create. To me, I still believe this: the best part of my career is still ahead of me, and it can be, and it's easy. All you got to do is do it.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your own way. Apply yourself, and who knows? Maybe a year from now, because of this podcast and it's public, and I really have to do something, maybe I will.
What do you mean?
Well, do all those things that I've been intending to do.
Right.
Go ahead and do it. It's just easy. Go ahead and do it. Stop procrastinating, which is part of the ADD too.
Yep.
Anyway.
So determination, program, making a bet on yourself. Yep. I would like people, whenever people talk in that sort of manifestation language, I always want to stop and say, you have to have talent.
Yeah.
You have to, because there's so many people that only hear that. Has anyone said you're the blankest person I've ever met? Has anyone said you're the funniest person I've ever met? Best looking, smartest, fastest, whatever it is.
Right, whatever it is.
Then make a decision in that direction. It can't just be, people move out here to be an actor, and it's like, have you ever acted before? No, but I get, and it's like, hey man, it's like moving to Silicon Valley and being like, computers aren't really my thing, but like, I feel like I'll get into them once I move there. Like, that's how I am.
Probably design department.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to have talent.
That's true.
Okay, so
have to have recognizable talent.
Let's say 5 people in your life have said, I can't believe how X you are. I can't believe you're the blankest person I've ever met.
Yeah.
All this stuff, even the drinking, it sounds like you were drinking maybe it felt like you were becoming more yourself, but you were actually becoming less yourself.
That's probably.
And it's, those decisions are always like to me, bad decisions are about denying your true essence.
100%.
Like the true essence is on stage 5 nights a week. Like that's your real, to me, your real thing.
Yeah.
It's fucking Dave Koechner.
NB. Hey, Chief. Hey, Chief. We used to say that.
Hey, Chief. I don't even know what we're doing. All right, you're great.
I love you.
Love you too, buddy. Good shit.